Hi everyone, this is Ramya from Site 24/7 team, and I'll be your trainer for today's session. So, welcome to our day one training. So, I hope I'm audible. If you're having any issues with the audio or if you're not able to see the screen, please do let us know in the chat so that our co trainer Nirun would be able to assist you with that. And during the sessions, if you have any questions, please do put it in the chat. We will be able to take care of that. Another point to inform, we have the materials for today's session in the handouts tab. Please do look into it and just to go through the slides, which we will be talking about and discussing about in this session. So, as you all know, we have a 5 day training going on, and the sessions are split up as 5 sessions. Like in first session, we will see about website monitoring and other internet services monitors that are inside 24/7. And then in the second session we'll see about the infrastructure monitoring and custom plugin monitoring. And in the third session we'll be seeing about how you can monitor your network environment and also the virtual infrastructure, and also about monitoring the application logs. And in the fourth session, we'll see about application performance monitoring and real user monitoring, basically about backend user monitoring and front-end user monitoring. And the session 5 will see about the reports, dashboards, or advanced configuration alerting that are provided by Site 24/7 and how you can use it for your benefit. So let's start with today's session. So this is our scope. First, we will see about the common terminologies used in Site 24/7, and then how you can manage your users and configure alerts, and about the website monitoring, synthetic monitoring, REST API monitoring, other internet services monitors, and then we'll end with website security related monitors. So, to start with the common terminologies, any resource whose performance needs to be tracked is considered as a monitor in Site 24/7. So, monitor can be a server, a network device, a website, or any application or any component in your IT infrastructure that needs monitoring. So Site 24/7 licensing and its pricing, it works based on the monitor type categorization. So we have basic monitors and advanced monitors. So they are categorized based on the complexity of monitoring. So like under basic monitors, we'll have the website, we'll have the ping monitor, the FTP, SSL certificate monitor, or WebSocket or port. And then we also have the server monitors under basic monitor, and even some very few Microsoft application monitors under basic, like Microsoft IaaS and Windows Server Backup Monitor. So the plugin monitors and other Docker and container monitors, they also come under the basic monitor licenses, and few other VMware resources or Azure resources or AWS resources. So each resource will be considered as basic monitor. And advanced monitors, they are categorized as a web page speed browser or web transaction or web TP, website defacement or the APM. So these kind of monitors come under advanced monitors, and most of the Microsoft application monitors like your SQL, your Office 365, Hyper-V or failover cluster, they all come under the advanced monitors. So that's how we have basically categorized. So now let's get into monitor group. So monitor group, it helps you to logically group resources and provide a business perspective of the resources. Like for example, you have your own environment and you want to group certain website into one group and certain servers into one group. So you can do that using monitor group and uh, track the availability and performance of those monitors from that group, and even receive alerts based on that. So you can group and organize resources by geography, function, ownership, or by business application. So let me just show you how you can create a monitor group and what are the options available there. So this is a Site 24/7 console. You can just click on home and you have the monitor group here. You can either create it from here or using this plus icon here. So I'm just going to create a group. if you're going to create a group, you also have to categorize it. If you have to select the monitor type, whether they have to be web or only servers or any synthetic transactions or APIs, you can select that, and then you can select the monitors. So I'm just gonna select 5 monitors. And this specifically means monitor count threshold to decide the monitor group status. That is for your monitor group to show as red, that means down, or yellow, that means trouble, or critical, which is denoted as orange. So this basically denotes the monitors are down or critical or trouble in your monitor group. So you can set the status here. You want the monitor group to show as down only when two of them are down. In that case, I'm going to configure it as 2. If you want the monitor group to show as down only when all of them are down, in that case, just go with 0. So we have something called subgroups as well, which I'll come later. Uh, Going to the health check configuration, this is to check the health and performance of your monitors in the monitor groups. So you can even set threshold for them. So earlier, the threshold which I mentioned is to just show the status of the monitor group. What if you want that to be for alerting as well? So if you want to mute for the monitored resources, you can just set it as yes, so that you don't receive separate alerts from them. And if you want to like notify, get a notification as trouble when a monitored resource is down, then in that case you can set it as yes here. And if you want to receive alerts only when certain number of monitors goes down, so that can be set under the notify for count based thresholds. And then you want to receive alerts when 3 monitors are down in the monitor group, so that can be set here. Or if you want to receive alert when 2 monitors are trouble in the monitor group, so you can set the threshold here. So similarly, we have so many threshold configurations which would help you to customize the way you are receiving alerts from the monitor group. This also helps you to minimize alerts which you receive from the monitors. So instead of individually receiving the alerts from the monitors and monitor group, you can make sure that you're only receiving certain amount of alerts by configuring the monitor group and receive alerts based on that. So once you have configured the threshold, you can just save it. And we also have something called dependency configuration. So this is like a built-in false alert protection system that lets you configure dependent monitor in your monitor group. So let's say you have a setup, an application server monitor. So like you're monitoring your website URLs, and for that website you're monitoring the domain expiry or SL certificate. So you have a group created for that. And there is another group which is the firewall. You have the ping or port monitors configured under that. So what you can do is you can create a monitor group and set that firewall monitor, either the ping or port, as a dependent monitor. So that what happens is, this dependent monitor, when this particular ping monitor reports down, we immediately go and check the status of all the other monitors. We'll see whether that is reporting down, and based on that the alerts will be suppressed. So by this you can control alerting. So this does not bombard your environment with alerts in this case, because when obviously when your server or website goes down, the firewall will also would have went down, the ping monitor would also start reporting down. So when it goes down, we go and check the ping monitor, we check the status. If it is down, the alerts will be suppressed from the server, and only the alert from ping will be triggered. And if the ping monitor is reporting up while the server or website is reporting down, in that case the alerts will be triggered normally. So even under maintenance, we won't be triggering any alerts. That is, if the dependent monitor that you have configured under maintenance, even in that case we won't be triggering any alerts. So in this dependent monitor you can select up to 5 monitors by default. And then we have configuration profiles. So tags are something but labeling your monitor groups or monitors, so that you can filter the monitors or use certain actions, like when you are configuring a rule, or when you're searching for a particular monitor, or when you want to filter a monitor, so you can use this tag, so you can customize them. So just click on add tag, you can create a tag here and just save. So it will be associated here. So if you want to select a tag that is already created, that you can select it from the drop down. And then we have alert setting, which is user alert group, which I'll explain to you later, how you create a user, how you can create a user alert group and associate it. But this is where you will be selecting the user alert group once you have configured them. And we also have something called on call schedule and notification profile, which I'll come back in the later slides. So once you have done with the creation of your monitor group, just click on save. The monitor group will get added immediately. So this is the monitor group which I created. So in the summary page, you can see the health status and also the availability, and what are the total number of monitors in this monitor group, and how many are reporting down, critical trouble, or how many are up. And this is like the monitor list which I have selected. And in the health check, you will have the health status of all the monitors you have in the graphical representation. So these are the total number of monitors added, how many monitors you have removed from this monitor group, and then we have availability status and percentage. And in the business view, you get a graphical representation, kind of gives you an idea what are the resources present and which are down. And let me create a subgroup now. So you have a monitor group created here. You can also create a subgroup, like grouping the resources hierarchically by creating groups which can better organize the resources. So let me just click on subgroup here. So I can just create a new subgroup now. So let me go with name. Similarly, you'll have all the configurations here, and then just save it. So here you can see this is the main group which I created, and this is the subgroup. So similarly, you can create multiple subgroups. Just click on subgroups and create a new one. So this is about the monitor group and the alerting, and also how you can monitor the health and status of your monitors under the monitor group. Moving on to on-premise Polar. On-premise Polar is a lightweight agent which helps you to monitor your internal network and resources behind a firewall or a VPN. So basically, if you want to monitor your internal website or an internal SSL certificate, so this on-premise Polar can be used as a location there. You add a monitor, you add a website, you configure this on-premise Polar as a location, so that from there we will try to access a URL and check if that is working fine. And using this on-premise Polar, you can add network devices for monitoring your net flow. So these your network based monitoring is done using this on-premise Polar. And also your uh, VMware infrastructure, if you want to monitor your vCenter, your hosts or your VMs, your VMware Horizon resources, then Nutanix resources, or even if you want to monitor your server without any agent, then that has to be done using this on-premise Polar. So everything in detail will be discussed in our day 3 session, where we will see how you can add network devices, how you can add NetFlow monitoring, or how you can add agentless server monitors. So those details will be seen in the day 3 session. So moving on to user and alert management. So let me show you from our console how you can add a user. So just go to admin, and then under user and alert management you have this users and alerts page, where you just click on the plus icon and it will give you a pop-up where you give the contact name, the email here, and mobile number if you want the user to receive SMS or voice call alerts, and in that case configure the number. So only when you give any number here, automatically this medium will get enabled. If not, by default SMS and voice call will be disabled here. And we have the site 24/7 user role. So let me just this is just for an example. So in the site 24/7 user role, you can select what user role the user should have. The highest role will be the super admin, and the user with least access would be the alert contact. Alert contact, they don't have any access to the web client. They can only receive alerts or reports the way they have configured in the account. And super admin, yes, they will have all access, including the subscription page, where they get to check all the licensing details, and they will have access to add monitors, remove monitors, and perform all the actions. And if you want an user to only have read only role, they can view everything but not perform any write action. In that case, you can go with read only role. But let's say you want to create a monitor group, but they should only have full rights to those monitors. In that case, you can select the user role as admin, and under allowed to access you can select it as monitor group. So select the monitor group that you have created. So let's say I created a monitor group with 5 monitors, right? So what I can do is I can just select that monitor group from the drop down, so that when that user logs in, he can only see those 5 monitors which is under the group, and he will not have access to any of the other monitors in the account. So that's how this monitor group restriction role works. And then we have status IQ user role or CloudSpan user role, which are like sub products. And if you are using it, then you can just go ahead and select it. If not, you can just leave them. And then we have associate to user alert group. If you have already created a user alert group and you want this user to be added to this user alert group, then you can select it from the drop down. And in notification medium, so obviously you're adding a user to the account. In some cases, the user do not want to receive any of the alerts and they just only want to log into site 24/7 and check. In that case, you can disable all the notification mediums. So let's say they don't want to receive mobile alerts, they just only want the email alerts, and just select email. And when you expand the alert settings here, it will give you an options to customize even them. Like under the down, you get to select whether they have to receive an email alert for down, and email alert for critical, trouble, or up. So let's say for this user, I don't want them to receive any critical alerts or trouble alerts. They only want the down and up alerts. So I'll just select them and I can save it, so that even if the monitor goes down under to which this user is associated, the user will not receive the trouble alert, because I've only configured them to receive down or up alerts. And then we have something called alerting period. Alerting period is like you can select a particular period in which the user should receive alerts. So let's say you want the user to receive alerts only from morning to evening and not 24 hours. But again, this only applies for SMS and voice call alerts, not for email alerts. By default, email alerts will be triggered all day. And even this don't alert me, it would be applied only for the SMS and voice call alerts. So if you don't want SMS and voice calls on Saturday or Sunday or whenever your week offs or any important days, you can just select it and save it. And email format, if you want the alert email to be in HTML or text format, so accordingly you can select it and just save it. So once it is saved, an invite email will be triggered to the user from site 24/7. They need to accept the invite and give the login credentials. They have to configure the login credentials first, and after that, they would be login to site 20 would be able to log into site 24/7 and use the console. So this is how you create a user and associate a role to them. So now we will see how you can add a user alert group and how you can associate that user to a user alert group. So this is where you can create a user alert group. Go to the user alert group section, create on the plus icon, and you will have a pop-up. Here you can select the product. So later I mentioned that you have Status IQ Cloud Span and DRA. So right now we are configuring it for site 24/7. So site 24/7 will be selected by default, and in the add users section, just select it from the drop down. So the users that you want to be part of this alert group has to be selected from the add users field. And we have something called attribute alert group. So let me just explain to you more about attribute alert group. This is basically for teams that don't want to receive alerts for resources from other teams. So let's say this is network team, or so let's say there is an application team and there is a security team. Okay, and you're monitoring your website. So you want the website's availability to be sent to the application team. So if it is down, an alert has to be triggered to the application team. So let's say you have configured a keyword check for the website. So something is present to the website and we are triggering you an alert. That alert does not have to go to application team. It has to go to security team. So this way you can customize the way the alerts are triggered to each alert groups. So I can show you how that can be done. So let me just select the monitor type. So here I can see availability for this particular group. I want the availability alerts to be triggered. I want the read timeout alerts to be triggered, and also I want when the response time exceeds a certain threshold. And this, I'm gonna save it. So only for these attributes the alerts will be triggered for these users. So I can create another user alert group where I can create a new attribute alert group. Similarly, I can select website, and here I want the alerts like the should contain strings, or when a website content is changed, or if a string should not be present in the response but it is there. Those kind of alerts I want to be triggered to a different alert group. So that can be configured here. Once you have added an attribute alert group, you can select it from the drop down and then add the users and then just save it, so that the alert group is now configured. The only thing now you have to do is just go and associate the alert group to a monitor. Like for example, you have already created a monitor. In that case, just edit the monitor. In the alert settings, you have the user alert group here. So I created the alert group. So I have the users here. You can verify them. And this is the alert group which I created. I'm just selecting it and then save. And that's it. So according to the attributes I have configured in the attribute alert group, the alerts will be triggered. But in some cases you want, so you have admin group and you don't want the alerts to be customized this way, and you want all the alerts to be triggered to that group. In that case, you can just leave it all attribute groups, so that attributes are not selected, and by default whatever alerts are being triggered whenever the monitor goes down, trouble or critical, an alert will be triggered to the respective user alert group that you have selected in the monitor. So we just saw about creating user alert group, attribute alert group. Now moving on to on-call schedule. On-call schedule is very beneficial for those who work on shifts, because let's say there are like three teams and they work on shifts, and the rotation happens every 3 months or every week or every month even. So in that case, you want the alerts to be triggered properly to the users who are present in the desk, not to the users who are not present. In that case, you can configure this on call schedule so that automatically the user alert groups, shifts according to the rotation that you have configured. So let me just click on add on call schedule. You can select the time zone in which they work and just give a shift name. Select the user alert group from the drop down, and you can set the start time and configure the shift duration. So let's say the first shift starts at 9 a.m. and the shift duration is 9 hours. So automatically it will tell you the shift ends at 6 p.m. And I'm creating another shift, shift B, and then I have application team here, and then I have, let's say, from 1 p.m. and similarly 9 hours. And then I have shift C, who logins at 8 p.m., let's say, and same 9 hours. So here I have created three shifts. Then we have shift rotation policy. So you want the rotation to happen every month or week. So you need to select that. So every month on 1st 12 a.m., I want this rotation to happen. So every month on 1st at 12 a.m., this rotation will happen. So what happens is first shift A, B, C, they'll have admin group, application team, AppLogs team, right? Now here, the admin group will come to shift C, application team will go to shift A, AppLog team will go to shift B. So this is how the rotation will work. And now again, the next month, the rotation will happen like, so the AppLogs team will go to the shift A, and then the application team will come to shift C, and similarly, admin group will come to shift C, and the AppLogs team will go to shift B. So this is a rotation that kind of happens every month according to what you have configured. And also, you can even exclude alerts. Like if you want to exclude alerts for every Saturday or every second Saturday, so these kind of configurations can be done. And this applies even for email alerts. So the one which I showed earlier, that is only for SMS and voice call, that is in the user alert settings. But this here in the on call schedule, this applies also for the email alerts, all kind of alerting basically. Once you have done, you can just save it, and then that's it. You can just go to the monitor, and under the alert settings you'll have this on call schedule there. You can just select them, and once it gets applied, the alerting will be working based on that. So till now we saw how you can add users, how you can create a user alert group, we saw about attribute alert group, we saw about on call schedule. So we saw almost all the configurations, the basic configurations inside 24/7. So moving on to website monitoring. So when you have a website running for business, so the correct way to say a business is running successfully, one of the main reasons would be the availability of your website. It should always be available, and that too, if and that too, it should be globally accessible as well. So using Site 24/7, you can monitor the availability of your website from global locations. So we support monitoring from 120 plus global locations, and also behind your firewall using on-premise Polar, as I mentioned earlier when explaining about on-premise Polar. So you get to track the availability of your website every 1 minute from all those locations and receive alerts when there is any downtime. You can even monitor the content in your website. So if you want to receive an alert when a certain string is present in the site, or if a certain string is not present in the site, then in that case you can even configure to receive alerts. So this is the addition of website monitor page. So let me show it to you from the site 24/7 console. So go to admin, and in the left panel you have the website. Click on the plus icon. So here you get to give the URL that you're going to monitor. In some cases, you want to add bulk URLs, like you don't want to individually add each URLs, right? In that case, we have now introduced adding bulk URLs option. So either you can give the sitemap URL where many URLs are listed, so that based on the rediscovery interval, we check the URL added or removed, and accordingly, they will be added or suspended from monitoring inside 24/7. Or you can even give a particular URL and then a CSV file or a Google Sheet. If not, you can just upload a file which has the list of URLs that have to be added to site 24/7. If not, you can even add multiple URLs here so that they get added for monitoring as separate website monitors. And for those website monitors, by default, if you want an SSL certificate or domain expiry monitor to be added, you can just click this icons, and then they will get added when the URLs that you've added is getting discovered. So just click on, once you've provided the URLs, you can just click on add, and the monitors will get added once you save the configuration here. And check frequency is something how frequently we check your website. Like if you want us to check the website every 1 minute or every 3 minutes or every 30 seconds, so that can be configured from here. The maximum would be 1 day and the minimum would be 30 seconds for a website monitor. So I'm just selecting 1 minute, and then in the monitoring locations, just click on plus icon. So here you have to select the primary location and the secondary locations. So the primary location is a location from where the check will happen every 1 minute. That is a check frequency. And by default, every 30 minutes, the check will happen from all the secondary locations. So Seattle would be my primary locations, and my secondary locations would be just few other locations which I want. And then click on save. So it will be associated here, and you can see what are the locations which I've selected. Now coming to the other configurations, first is the content check. So you have a website, and this website should always have welcome in it, and you want to make sure that it is always present. So when I give it as welcome and inside the double quotes, it will particularly look for that welcome string and check the HTML response. If I'm not able to find the string, an alert will be triggered, either trouble or down according to the configuration you have done. And similarly, if I want to receive an alert, if an error or if an exception, so these kind of strings are present in the HTML response. In that case, I want to receive alert, I can configure that here. And that too, you can even configure whether they have to be case sensitive, like whether we have to check whether the first letter is in uppercase or is in lowercase. So these kind of minute details can also be monitored using this case sensitive option. And you can even rather than providing a string, you can even give a pattern using which we can check in the response. You also get to monitor the HTTP response headers, and if there is any mismatch in that value or the name, an alert will be triggered accordingly. We also have some HTTP configurations, like we support post, get, and head methods. So you can get the uh, values from the headers and use it in this monitor, or you can post like in a form or text or XML or JSON give the request headers and provide a user agent. By default, site 24/7 will be the user agent, but if you want it to be a different one, you can configure that here. We also support three authentication methods, which are basic, OAuth, and web token. Like when we access an URL, even for accessing that, we sometimes require an credentials, right? Web credentials. So you can configure the basic credentials here. Just click on the plus icon. You can give the credential type like the username and password, and then save it. If not, if you want to use a OAuth or web token, just click on that. Click on the plus icon, select the flow, and you need to give all the other details like client ID, your client secret, your authorization endpoint URL. So these details have to be given and can be associated here. We also have something called query authoritative name server. So when this is set as yes, we will not use a system resolver, but the web server's IP is resolved from domain's authoritative name server itself. And we also have something called force domain or IP. That is, instead of using the IP resolved from the URL that you have configured, we use the IP or domain that you are configuring here. And we also have something called accepted HTTP status codes. Like in some cases, some URLs might return 500, or will you have some other response code that has to be treated as up. So you can configure that here. So by default, what we do is we check the URL, and if we get a 200 response code, then the website is up, the monitor is up. If not, the monitor is down. So instead of 200, you also want another status code to be treated as up, then that can be configured here. So if we receive any other response code other than 200 and 500, then that would be reported as down. And if you want to follow HTTP direction, we allow up to 10 HTTP redirections, so that can be enabled. And if you want to trust the SSL server, SSL certificate, that is to trust the SSL certificate and ignore any validation errors, you can set it as yes. And if you want the protocol to be auto or TLS or SSL version, you can select it from the drop down. And the HTTP protocol that you want, we support 1.1 and 2, you can select it. And then we have something called ALPN. This is basically to ensure that only supported application protocols are sent as part of the handshake, TLS handshake, thus reducing the RTT. So these are some of the options, and we also have advanced configuration, which is like connection timeout. So within this time, I should get connected to your website. If not, you send me an alert. So you can configure that here. And if you only want the monitoring to happen from IPv6 locations, then IPv6 locations, then you can set it to yes. And if you want the monitoring to happen from the locations that you have configured, that is IPv4 locations, then just set it to no. And we have monitor group. Like if you want this monitor to be part of a monitor group, then you can configure it from the drop down. If not, you can create the monitor and then create a new monitor group according to your convenience. Then dependent of monitor. So earlier we saw that option on monitor group, but this option is also present in a monitor. So this monitor can be dependent on some other monitor, like maybe say server. If the server is down, obviously the website is gonna go down, right? So when the website goes down, I'm going to go and check the server status, and if the server status is down, I will suppress the alert from this website monitor. So that's how the dependent monitor works. So these are the configurations which we provide in website monitor. Going on to the threshold configurations and the alert settings. So first, let's see the threshold and availability. So clicking on the plus icon, let me show you the options which we provide. First is the downtime rule. Number of locations to report monitor as down. So earlier when I created a location profile, I selected 5 locations there. Okay. And I want my monitor to report down only when the monitor is down, the website is down from 2 locations among that 5 locations. So in that case, I can go and select 2 locations here. Okay, but just say uh, I want my monitor to report down when it is down even from one location. So report down in the sense I'm saying to mark it as down, not to trigger an alert. This is only for marking the monitor as down. Okay, but in some cases, I want that monitor to report or show us down only when it is down from all selected locations that you have configured. So you can select that. And then we have other configurations like notify when website content is modified. So we have a method where we monitor the website's content, and if we see any changes in the content, like the amount of content that is modified in your website or any changes, so we send an alert when this is set as yes. And when we are able to establish a connection with your server, but we are not able to read the response within a certain 30 seconds, in that case we trigger read timeout alerts. If you don't want to receive those alerts, then just click on no. uh, if you want to receive those alerts, then just click on yes. And then we have other thresholds like notify when website content changes by this much percentage. So by default we trigger an alert when there is a modification, but you only send me an alert when there is a 50% change, when there is a 30% change. So that can be configured here. And we also have a threshold for you to configure when the response time exceeds a certain threshold. So usually the response time of my website should take only 5 seconds. But if it takes more than that, you send me an alert. So that can be configured here. And that too, location wise, it can be configured. So if the response time exceeds this much from primary location, you send me an alert. From secondary location, you send me an alert. So these kind of configurations can be made, and you can receive alerts based on that. Moving on to tags. So we already saw about tags and monitor groups. This is for labeling purposes. If you want, you can use it. If not, you can just leave it. The fields which are in red are the mandatory ones which have to be configured. Then moving on to IT automation. IT automation and such, we have certain templates that you can use to trigger automations to certain monitor types. So this in detail will be discussed in tomorrow's session. But here, I can just say that we have options to configure IT automation templates. So you get to create um, a template which has certain actions that can be performed, and you can associate it here. And then we have alert settings. Here in user alert group, you can select the user alert groups that has to receive alerts when this monitor goes down. And then we have on-call schedule, so you can select it from the drop down. And then we have notification profile. So let me show you the options we have in notification profile. So first is send root cause analysis report by email when monitor is down. So when my monitor is down, you send me an alert as well as a RCA with it, which can have an MTR, which also have the ping analysis, which will basically help you to understand where the drop has happened, what is the network route. So you can understand, okay, this is a problem on my end, or it is something happened in the middle where your provider can be the reason. So these kind of things can be checked in that RCA. And then we have email template. So by default we say monitor, by default we send monitors down. That template is used when an alert is triggered. So what if you want to configure it? You can configure it here. So in the subject, monitor name is status, and I want to add monitor group. I want to add the group name as well, because for certain users, if you have the group name, you get a better understanding. Okay, this is part of this, so this is affected. So these kind of customizations can be made, and in the content, if I want other things like my poll frequency to be mentioned there, or to have any down reason or monitor URL to be mentioned in the content, so that can be configured. And even the other parameters which can create using global parameters. Okay, even the modified ones can be configured here. So once you have done, just save it, so that for this particular monitor, this template will be used. So this notification profile, whichever monitor has this notification profile will have this template. And this is like notify as down or trouble after executing IT automation. So when a monitor goes down and you want to execute automation, you have that automation executed, and after that, if the monitor goes down or trouble, you receive an alert. If not, the monitor will just report as up. So you can configure that. And if you want to suppress the IT automation of dependent monitors, so that can be done here. So these are the alert configuration. This is basically customizing how you receive alerts. So when the status is down, and alerting period is something like, if it goes down anytime, you send me an alert. Or if you want to create a business hour for that, you can create it from 9 to 5 p.m. on these days. You, if this monitor goes down, you send me an alert. So that is configured here. And in the notification medium, you get to select from which medium you want to receive this down alert. So if when it is down, it's critical. So that means I want a mobile push notification to be sent, a voice call to be sent for this down, and I want a critical alert to be sent through SMS, mobile push, and I want critical alert to be sent via email, mobile push, and voice call. And there is trouble here. I only want I only want email alert to be sent for trouble. So this way I can customize how I can receive alerts through each mediums. And we also have something called notification delay. So there are some sites which you would be monitoring for which you don't want to immediately receive an alert. All right. So in that case, you can use this. So when the monitor goes down, I want to receive alert only when it is down for 3 continuous failures. So in this case, I configured my poll frequency as 1 minute. So 3 continuous failures means 3 continuous polls. Like for 3 minutes, if the monitor is down from all the locations, then you send me an alert. So that is what I have configured now. So if I want an alert to be sent immediately, then I click on notify immediately after failure, so that when the monitor goes down, immediately I'll be receiving an alert. Similarly, you can do this for trouble critical. Persistent alert is basically for some monitors which are considered to be very critical, I would say, because this keeps on sending you persistent alerts. Like for every third error. So, for example, my monitor goes down at 10 a.m. and I want to receive an alert every third minute. That is, 1 minute is my frequency, right? So every third error means 10:1, 10:2, 10:3, 10:3 again. If it is down, you send me an alert. So instead of like sending you only one alert, so we basically send you alerts when there is a monitor status change in the monitor. So the monitor has been up all the time and it starts reporting down at 10. I send an alert, and it is continuously down for 1 hour, and you have no idea because we have sent an alert, and we'll send only a up alert after 1 hour when it goes up. So in between, if you want to receive continuous alerts, you want certain teams to be if you want the team to notice this and work on it. In that case, you can just configure this. Every fifth error, you send me an alert. So every 5 minutes, every 10th error, you send me an alert. So these are persistent notifications for the same downtime. Okay, so that is how persistent alert is used. And then we also have escalation settings. Like these alerts which we mentioned earlier, these are sent to the user alert group that you have configured while adding the monitor in the alert settings. So there is a separate team, escalation team, or any application team or admin team that you separately have to handle these escalations. In that case, you can specifically choose a user alert group. Like when the status is down for 30 minutes, an alert has to be sent to a different user alert group. Let me see. Let me set it as application team, and the notification medium should be anything which you want, like your email, mobile push, or third party, anything. And similarly, you can set up to 3 escalation settings. Okay, right now we allow more than 5 actually. So you can select the status and then configure the escalate after, and then select the notify user alert group and trigger the alert to the specific alert group so that they can handle the escalation. And for this, if you want any IT automations to be handled or to be triggered, so that can be selected from the drop down. So these are the notification profile settings which can be used to customize how you receive alerts. And these are the third party integration. So if you have any incident management tool like your SDP or your Microsoft Teams, your ServiceNow, you can integrate that with Site 24/7 and receive alerts. So receive incidents. Incident will get created here. Like when my monitor goes down, automatically an incident will be created on your management tool there, so that you can handle those incidents, and even the incident gets closed by the configuration in site 24/7. So this in detail, the configuration and everything will be handled in the fifth session. In the day 5 training, we will be discussing more about this third party configurations and everything. So this is about the add website monitor page. Once you are done, just click on save. Let me show you an already added a monitor. So this is the website monitor which is already added. So this is a summary page where we show the response time. This has a breakdown of your DNS time, connection time, SSL handshake, first byte, and download time. Gives you an idea where the time more time is taken. And if you want to see that in detail, just click on the particular graph like icon, which will take you to a performance report, which have a graphical representation, and also the latest raw poll values of this website monitor. So this is the response time. And we also give the throughput details. This is response time result IP and by location. And these are the location. So these are the raw poll data. That's about the summary response time. And this is the global status, which is like the number of locations which I've configured for the monitor to be monitored from, and the location status, and what are the other type of monitors which I have for this URL, and then what are the down or trouble or critical history for this particular time, last 24 hours. And then we have availability and response time by location. And we have the AppDex score. This is basically to tell you the user score, whether they're frustrated or tolerating, or this is based on the RUM, which real user monitoring. So this is evaluated based on that, tells you how satisfied they are using the site, if they are, if they are facing any delays or something. So though those can be seen in this world. uh, in the outages tab, we have all the downtimes, trouble, and critical uh, alerts or downtimes listed here. And then in the inventory is nothing but the details, that is what you have configured in the monitor, right, in the edit page. You can see here. So in some way, in some time, you just want to see what you have configured for this monitor so that you can do the same for another monitor. You can just come and check here, and you can see when it was, when it was last created and it was last modified. Like what changes were done can be seen in the audit logs, but when it was changed can be seen here. And in the log report, this is more like a data collection report, which pretty much tells you from which location and from which IP the request was sent, and what is the status, what is the status code, what is the breakdown of the response time, and also if it is down, what is the reason. Okay, and if you want to specifically look for any locations, you can check here. And if you want to specifically look for trouble alerts alone, you can see that here. You can check by selecting a particular status. And if you want the data collection normal, it means the check frequency, that is every 1 minute. Secondary recheck is something which happens from secondary locations, right, every 30 minutes. Poll now is something but which you can trigger like a on demand poll. And what is the screenshot polling? When we do a check of your URL, when there is a down, we capture the screenshot of the page which we get. So that polling and Harley polling basically tells you the 30 minutes check. And when the monitor reports down, immediately we do a recheck from a location. So if you want to check that, that retry will be shown. And if the check has been done from any other ISP, so uh, met, uh, these kind of options we give so that it is transparent, so that you can see, okay, from these locations this poll has happened and this is the result. And to trigger a on-demand poll now, this option is used. So this is the three icons. If you want to edit the monitor, click edit, poll now. Or if you want to trigger a test alert and see if the mails are triggered properly, or if you want to schedule maintenance for a monitor, like let's say your website is down and you're aware of it, it is down and your team is already working on it, and it would take you some 30 to 60 minutes for the down to be cleared, for your website to be reporting up properly, and you don't want an alert to be triggered for that, you want to suppress them. So just click on the schedule maintenance 30 minutes and you get to configure that here. And other than that, if you want to share this in an email, or this page and export into a PDF, you can do it. Or add this monitor to a monitor group, or clone this monitor, or suspend or delete. You can choose to do this by the actions provided in the uh, icon here. So that's about the website monitor. So in website monitor, basically you get to monitor the availability of your website. What if you want to monitor more? So let's say you are having a e-commerce website, and you're running a e-commerce website, you're managing that, and some user is complaining about the slow page time. When they try to load a page, it's taking like more time. So here you want to know what web page elements are loading in your website and what is taking more time. So to get a better idea, we have a monitor which is called web page speed browser monitor, where we load the URL in the browser which you have selected, and we also have a waterfall chart which gives you the breakdown of the web page elements. So tells you how much time each web page element is taking to load, gives you an idea, okay, this is the reason why it is taking more time. So let me take you to that monitor. This is a web page speed browser monitor. Just click on the plus icon to add them. Give the web page URL, check frequency, page loading timeout. Like within 30 seconds, this page has to load. If not, you send me an alert. You can configure that here. And wait after load. So it depends on the type of website you have. If it is a static website or dynamic website or flash based website, you can just click on that, so that accordingly the page will be loaded. And then we have select browser for monitoring. So from which browser you want the page to be loaded. So either Firefox or Chrome, you can select it. And what is the device type, like whether it has to be from the desktop or mobile or tab can be selected. And the resolution, in which resolution the page has to be loaded. And monitoring locations and other options are pretty much the same as we saw for website monitor. So once you're done this, just once you have done with the configurations, just save it. And once you have done, this is the web page speed browser monitor. So I'm going to click on the web page speed browser. In the summary page, we give the availability. What is the page load time for the last 24 hours? How many downtimes were there for last 24 hours? So this is the page load time, and we give you the breakdown of DNS time, connection time, SSL handshake, first byte download, start, document complete, and page load time as well. Sorry, and to get a sorry. To get a detailed analysis of the report, you can go to the performance report and get the detailed view on the graphs of page load time and also the raw poll data. So this is the waterfall chart, and this is according to the location which you have selected here. So I want this to be from New York. So I can select it, and this will show me the waterfall chart, which will tell you the resources, the web page elements that load in your page. And here you can understand which is taking more time. So you can see this is taking this much time, right? And if I hover on this, the time to first byte is 1.438 seconds, and this is the link. And if you want to see what are the top 20 images that loads, you can even select it and get the resources. What are the redirect resources? So you can just click on that and see what are the redirected resources in your uh, web page that you have configured, and what are the domains, and each domains how many requests. So these details basically helps you to understand, right? So okay, this is causing me and I have to take care of that, so this has to be worked on. And this is a web page summary. What are the number of requests, what are the total objects, what are the total images, javascript, css, and total page size. And this is a screenshot history which pretty much tells you this is a page I'm getting when I'm trying to load your website within that particular second page load time. And this is the domain summary, which will tell you the IP address, the number of requests, average load time, and average throughput as well. Global status, that is the status of the website from all the global locations, and we have the availability and page load time by location. And in the outages tab, you get to have the outages details, and obviously in page speed insights, it tells you the page speed score and what is the page load time, what are the number of requests and page size. So this is a web page speed browser monitor. And similar to website, even here you can configure string checks, that is the keyword checks, and receive alerts based on that. Now we saw how you can actually check when a web page uh, loads very slowly, or when some web page element is taking more time. So what if in your e-commerce website a customer is trying to perform a transaction? Let's say they are trying to search for a product, they are adding it to their cart, they're trying to check out, and they're unable to proceed with the checkout because some error is occurring. So here this wants you to monitor how smooth your flow of transactions in your website is. So this is where our synthetic monitor comes into the picture, where you can monitor the transactions, like the login to your website. You can select a product, you can click that products, add it to the cart, and see how smooth the transaction happens and how each step takes. So individually you get to monitor the steps, and you can track how much time it is taking to move on from one step to another step, and how much time the transaction is taking. So these kind of details can be monitored using our web transaction browser monitor. So that is synthetic monitoring. So this is the web transaction browser monitor. You just click on the plus icon. So here you have to install a recorder. Either if you're going to use a Chrome or Firefox or Edge, you get to add a recorder like an add-on. So this is the recorder which you have already added. I'm just going to click on it. So this is the page which I'll get. So you just click on record a transaction, enter the website URL that you want to monitor, just perform the transactions that you want. So I have performed the transactions. I want to make sure this is properly present in my page. Okay. So just close it. Just click on stop recording, and this is the steps which I've performed. Click on add new monitor. This is like add a new monitor. If you're already using it and you want to make some changes, you can re-record and update the existing monitor as well. Click on add new monitor. Give the the monitor name. The check frequency, what is the location profile? If you have already created one, yes, fine. If not, by default a location profile will get associated. And then the threshold and availability profile, later you can go and make the changes there. And we also have the notification profile, and if you want to associate this with some other monitor group, that can be done. And a page load timeout for each transactions, that can be configured here. Think time is the amount of time a transaction will take, to move on to the next page, how much time we have to wait to move on to the next page, and from which browser we have to do the monitoring. And parallel polling is nothing but, if you want the data collection or the polling to be happening in a sequential manner or in a parallel manner. Like for example, if you're trying to monitor a page, okay, you have to log in, and obviously you will give only one login, and you will be selecting like 7 locations, for example. And if you go with parallel polling, yes, that means parallelly we log into that website from all the locations. In some cases, some websites won't allow that. It can only be done when one session ends, right? So in that case, you can go with no, so that only after completing the data collection from one location, we move on to other locations, so that we log in and do the transactions again. And if you want to block certain domains in the monitor level, that can be configured here, or in account level, if you want to monitor certain domains, that can be configured. Once done, just click on save monitor. Testing will happen, and the monitor will get added. So let me just show you already added monitor. So web transaction browser monitor. So this is a already added monitor, and this is a summary page where we show the transaction time. When you hover on it, you get to see these are the steps I have, and each step how much time it took. And then in the transaction details, we have the steps. So this is a screenshot for step 1, step 2, and all the steps. And what is the step time, what is the page load time, and you can view the HTML for each page. And if there are any console errors, how much resources were loaded there, so these details will be captured. I'm sorry, let me just reload this. Please excuse me. I believe some issues with my network. Let me just stop sharing. Hi everyone, I'm so sorry. There were some network issues. I was able to rectify that. Please uh, ignore that. So going back to the web transaction browser monitor. So before that, I hope I'm audible, and please let me know if you're able to see my screen. I just got a confirmation from my co-trainer Nirun that everything is good to go. So I'll just proceed. Let us know if you have any issues. Okay. So we were discussing about the screenshots that we capture in the web transaction browser monitor and about the resources and console errors. So if you click on the console error, you get to see what are the console error that we got while loading that page, and what are the resources, and what is the view HTML. So view HTML will basically tell you the page view page source details there. Okay. So this is a page load time by location, and if you want to view the details of each location's page load time metrics, then you can just click on it, which will take you to the graph and pretty much tells you the same way I've showed for web page speed browser or this one, like raw poll data and also a graphical representation, and we have the availability and page load time by location details as well. So in the edit page, we have all the transaction details listed here. So I earlier mentioned about configuring the keyboard check for each step, right? So in this case, you can configure the keyword checks for each step that you have that you're monitoring in web transaction browser monitor. So you can click on the particular step, configure the content check, and then save it. And if you want a particular URL to be present, you can even check that. So particular step, you can configure uh, the keyboard and receive alerts based on that. And if you want to configure other thresholds, such as for each monitor type, the thresholds will differ for the attributes, right? So this is a response time. And other than that, if you want the transaction time alerts as well, like if the transaction time exceeds a certain threshold, you send me an alert. So those kind of metrics can be uh, those kind of thresholds can be configured for the attributes, and you can receive alerts based on that. And if you want to change the user agent that we use, then you can configure or customize the user agent accordingly, so that we use the user agent when we access the URL that you have configured for monitoring. So that is a web transaction browser. So till now we saw about a website monitor, about web page speed browser monitor, and web transaction browser monitor. So now moving on to REST API monitor. So as you all know, REST API, they provide a great deal of flexibility. Like today, there are almost like no projects or applications that don't have REST API for creating the professional services, right? So let us take the same example of e-commerce platform, and I'm trying to like proceed with the checkout, and I'm unable to, you know, proceed with the payment. So some error is occurring. When I'm trying to do this in an app, what I try to do is I just reload the app. I try to reinstall it and see if I'm facing same issues. This pretty much says that payment gateway, that API is failing, right? So using REST API, you can actually monitor that API and receive alerts based on that. So let me show you. So using our Site 24/7 REST API monitor, you get to monitor the response time and availability of your APIs. So Here you can give the endpoint URL that you want to monitor, how frequently you want that to be monitored, and set the monitoring locations as well. So not only that, similar to website, web page, and web transaction browser monitor, we also provide you with keyword, that is content checks or keyword checks. You can specify the response format, whether XML, text, or JSON. You can provide the expression, and we will test the response with that and trigger alerts if there is any mismatch according to the severity which you have selected. And we also have the HTTP and advanced configuration here, which can configure it according to your requirement. And we also have the threshold for response time for REST API. And this would be the summary page, where you get to have the breakdown of the response time and the global status and response time by location. So we also support monitoring your REST API transactions. So let me show you. So this is the REST API transaction monitoring. So here, these are the transaction steps that you can configure. You can import the steps or add the steps manually. You can add up to 25 endpoint URLs. So each step you can add it. We also support content checks for each step and HTTP configuration. And we also support parameter forwarding so that you get the output from this step and you can provide it in the next step. So these features are supported in REST API transaction monitor. And similarly, you have thresholds for it. So you get to receive alerts when the response time exceeds certain threshold from primary or secondary locations, and you have a graphical representation of the graphs and the availability and response time by locations. So that's it about our website monitor, web transaction browser monitor, and web page speed browser monitor. Now let's move on to other internet services monitor. So we support 15 such internet services monitor. So starting with the WebSocket monitor. So we monitor your WebSocket endpoints and identify the service interruptions, basically like ping pong monitoring. So we ping and check if it is reachable. If we get a response, then the monitor is up. So this pretty much tells you whether there is any service disruption or unusual spike in your response time. And this is the add WebSocket monitor page where you get to configure the WebSocket URL, set a connection timeout so that if the connection did not happen within this time, an alert should be triggered. And if you want to verify if the host name on certificate matches the host name specified in the WebSocket URL field, then you just have to disable the skip hostname verification field. And we have an option to even trust the SSL certificate. This is basically to validate your SSL or TLS certificate chain. And you can select the locations from where we need to monitor this, or you can even configure dependent monitor for them and set thresholds and notification profile and location profiles according to your requirement. We also have DNS server monitor. So DNS is the reason why users are able to connect to a website. If it is not functioning, then that's a big problem. So you can use our DNS server monitor to check the performance of your DNS server, your DNS lookup failures on any connection timeout. So you can make sure if your lookups are working as expected and your domain names are resolving correctly. So we support different DNS record lookup types like a CNAME or NS or name system or mail exchange or SOA, PTR, and SRV. So this is the add DNS server monitor page where you get to provide the DNS server details, the port, and the question name to with to query the server. And we also have the DNS sec validation. So to enable you need to enable to validate DNS response using system security extensions. And other than that, we you can select the question type question type, and we also have an option to validate them. So let me show it to you from the console. Please excuse me, just give me one moment. Please excuse me. I'm so sorry for the interruption. So we were seeing about the DNS server monitor configuration. So let me just go to web, and here we have the DNS server, even the other configurations which I mentioned earlier, the WebSocket, the DNS server. Here, just click on the plus icon, and here you get to configure the DNS server, the question name, the question type, what is the protocol, and here is the answer validation. So here you can give the address and you can validate it and receive alerts based on that. And this will have certain thresholds that you can monitor and receive alerts based on that. And this is how a DNS monitor will look like. This is the response time graph, and we have the response time by location as well. Moving on to port monitor. If you want to check if a particular port is working fine, you can monitor them using our custom protocol, that is port monitor. So port monitor helps you to monitor your TCP or IP ports from different locations. So you can stay alerted if there is a downtime, and you can even configure content checks in the response. So this is the port monitor add page where you get to add the port, select the check frequency, like how frequently you want the port to be checked and from which locations, and you can receive alerts based on that when there is a downtime. And we also have UDP monitor to check the availability of your UDP ports. You can receive alerts when there is a downtime or when there is a content mismatch in the response. So this is the add UDP monitor page where you have the display name. You give the host and the port details, check frequency, how frequently you want to check the port, and then wait time. It is the time to get response from the server, how much time we have to wait. If not, you send me an alert. Wait for 10 seconds. If not, send me an alert. And command, you can configure a command that can be executed through UDP port. So the command is sent to the host as UDP packet. So you can use this to send plain text commands to the host. And you can even use a command based on the application service listening on the UDP port. And if you prefer IPv6, or if you want the monitoring to be done from IPv4 locations as well, so those kind of uh, options you get to choose here, and you get to choose the monitoring locations according to your requirement. And other than that, the content checks as well. And moving on to ping monitor. Ping monitor, it is to monitor the round trip latency to any host. So you get to check the availability of any server or any device using this ping monitor. You can just configure the IP or host, and you can monitor it from an internal location, that is a polar, or from a global locations to check if they are available or not. So what we basically do is we send three ICMP packets are sent per pole, every pole, and based on which the monitor will be considered is, at least if we receive a single packet. So if we don't receive any packets, then that means it is down. If we receive a single packet, then we will consider that to be a hub. So this is how the ping monitor is configured. You get to configure the host, you configure the check frequency, and echo timeout, that is the host must respond with a reply message within this duration. Similar to the connection timeout or something which we saw in the previous website monitor or REST API monitor. So within this 15 seconds or 30 seconds, if there is no message, then it would be considered a downtime. An alert will be triggered there. So if you want to receive alerts when there is a packet loss, obviously when there is 100% packet loss, the monitor is down and you receive an alert. But even if the packet loss is 50% or 30%, you send me an alert. So that kind of attribute can be configured for the ping monitor in the threshold profile. So other than this, we also support monitoring your FTP, SMTP, or POP services. You can monitor the FTP server, SMTP server, or POP server by providing the details and receive alerts when there is when the response time exceeds a certain threshold or when it is reporting down. And you can monitor your network time protocol server monitor as well. So by default, when you configure it, we monitor the availability of your primary NTP server. So we capture the time in primary NTP and all the secondary NTP servers if you configure it. So you get to choose whether you just want to check the availability of the NTP server, or even if you want to compare the time of each secondary NTP server with the primary, so that when there is a difference, when there is a time drift, we send an alert. That is, if the NTP server exceeds a maximum drift, we send you an alert. And if the primary is not available, we send you an alert. So this is the add NTP server page where you get to give the primary NTP server details, add the check frequency, and select whether you prefer IPv6 locations. And then if you want to check synchronization, whether you want to monitor the time drift or not, is going to be selected here. And you configure the secondary NTP server. What is the maximum drift? And if you want this to be associated to any monitor groups, or if you want to configure uh, um, dependent or monitor, then that can be configured here. So that is NTP server. We also provide support for monitoring your mail delivery. So you can check your inbound and outbound mail servers by verifying delivery to both internal and external mailboxes. So this is how you add a mail delivery monitor. So you have the SMTP configuration and the POP or IMAP configuration. So you can either choose the SMTP, Site 24/7 SMTP server, where you don't have to provide anything, just use it and just give the POP or IMAP configuration. If not, you can configure your own SMTP host or IP, and then the SMTP port needs to be given. You need to provide the from and to email address as well. And in the POP or IMAP configuration, you need to enable email fetching so that we can see whether the email which is sent for testing is received. And you can use the Site 24/7 POP or IMAP server, or choose the mail fetch protocol, whether it should be POP or IMAP, and then you give the POP or IMAP's details, the host port, your fetch folder from where the we have to fetch the mail, and what is the username and password. So this will pretty much helps us to give you the availability of the SMTP and POP servers here. So moving on to SOAP Web Service Monitor. So using Site 24/7, you get to monitor the availability and performance of your SOAP-based web services. So you give the endpoint URL and SOAP message. So this is the page you get to configure it. You give the endpoint URL, SOAP message. If you're not sure, that you can use the request builder here and get the details and apply it here. And we also have an option to perform keyword checks in SOAP Web Service Monitor. So you give the content check. The response must contain XML nodes or attributes that match the specified names and values that you have given. So let me show it to you. So this is the SOAP web service. This is a summary page. These are all very similar. The attributes are very similar to what we show on website. Just the configuration slightly differs. So this is the endpoint URL, SOAP message, and then you have the content check here, where you get to configure the SML node or attribute so that we can check and match the specified names and values, and so that you can receive alerts based on that. So moving on to FTP transfer monitor. This is to track the round trip time, file upload and download time. So what we basically do is we send a 10 KB text file to the destination folder and check if the file is getting uploaded, and then if the same file is getting downloaded. So this is how we show it as up or down. So this is the add page where you select whether you want to monitor the file upload and file download. Then you provide the username and password of your FTP server, what is the destination folder path, and from which location some monitoring has to happen. Moving on to ISP latency monitor. So this is to continuously monitor the ISP connections, latency, jitter, and other key metrics across different network path. You can basically visualize the trace route, analyze the network path, and track where latency is high. So let me show you the ISP monitor. So this will be the add page for ISP latency, where you select the protocol, the host, and the port, and you select the frequency and the monitoring locations. Once that is done, in the summary you have the latency, the map, which will tell you from there it is available. And this is the latency, jitter, hop count graphical representation. When you hover on that, you can see from which location and how much time is taken. So these are the values and from the locations. These are the hop count and these are the latencies of all paths. If you want to view the trace route for each of them, just click on it. It will take you to the trace route, give you the trace route for that particular location, hop number, the status, IP, the latency, and backward hops details. And this is the network path analysis. So if you want to highlight only the Columbus, you can just select it and then you get to highlight that part, or just Boston. So you can select which path you want to highlight, and if you want if you want to highlight the link delay which is less than 5 milliseconds, that you can select it. And if you don't want the node label to show, or if you don't want the link delays to be shown, you can set it. And if you want the polling to be done now, and the network path analysis for that will be shown after you do it from that particular location. And when you hover on that particular nodes, you get to have the details of the agent, what is the latency, AS number, and AS name. We also show the AS number flow view. We also provide some threshold attributes for ISP latency monitor, like for latency, hop count, and for jitter or AS number on the trace route, or distinct AS number count. So that's ISP latency monitor. So we also have introduced gRPC monitor and file upload monitor. So gRPC, it's like gRPC is used to build scalable and fast APIs, right? So using Site 24/7, you can run health checks to ensure the availability of your gRPC resources and the functionality of the related services, like your streaming platforms can be monitored. You can check if the client server communication is working well by ensuring the data is rendering and confirming if gRPC endpoints are available. And you can perform your track performance of your applications using gRPC. For this, you would be like submitting a .proto file with details specific to the gRPC endpoint. So these checks will track the performance of endpoint and by using input message configured for that specific method. So that is gRPC monitor. And we also have file upload monitor, which is to monitor the availability and response time of your API endpoints over IPv4 or IPv6 enabled locations. So this includes multi-part data, that is text and files in the request body. So an alert will be sent if the API response does not. We also have something like keyword checks. So an alert will be sent if the API response does not validate against specific rejects, XPath or JSON path. So a clear example for using this monitor would be if there is a portal where your users can raise their concerns or upload files or images. So with file upload, you can ensure whether that is the files are getting uploaded without errors, and by checking the availability of that particular endpoint where they're trying to upload it. So these kind of monitors can be used to ensure the availability. So moving on to website security related monitors. Before moving on to that, let's have a short 5 minutes break. After which we will see about the website security related monitors, where we'll see about website defacement, SSL certificate, also about digital risk analyzer, which is a new subproduct of Site 24/7. See you in 5 minutes. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you all for waiting. Let's just resume the session because we just have got 15 minutes more. So I hope you all are able to see my screen and also I'm audible. Got a confirmation from my co-trainer. So let's start. So we'll start with website security related monitors. So security is a major concern in most of the organizations. Any breach or website attacks, or if there is an expiry or any attacks on your website, you just want to get notified. You need to be aware if there are any changes that have been done to your website. So this is where our website security related monitors comes into the picture. So let's start with the website defacement monitor. This is used to monitor the integrity of your web page and check for any modification of content and critical elements like your images, scripts, anchor, text, etc. So what we do is we detect any modification for any uh, uh, elements in your web page, and we trigger alerts based on that. So let me show it to you from our console. So go to web and we have the website defacement here. So give the domain URL, and you can specify any domains that you want to allow. If not, just leave it. And what kind of defacements do you want to monitor? If any changes in anchor or iframe, image, link, script, text. These are the defacements which we support. And if you want to monitor everything, select everything and you provide the URL here. So we have threshold detection, which is auto and manual. So auto is nothing but we auto detect and update the script and content modification thresholds by checking the web page twice continuously after you set up. So you set up the monitor, we just do a check of your entire page and accordingly we set the threshold. And if that is breached, we send an alert. But if you want to manually configure the thresholds, like let's say you want to receive an alert when there is a 50% modification, when there is 30% modification, you can configure them. And similarly, you can add many web page URLs here, and for each URL you can perform this check and receive alerts based on that. So let me show you a already added website defacement monitor. So this is the current page status where we show the links, what is the page size, and what is the defacement status. If there were any script defacement, or if there were any modification, what is the text defacement status, how much it has modified, and if there is any modification, if there is a reason. So we also show the defacement history, for which you can actually see the reason, and you would be able to have the differences as well. What is the modification and what modifications were made. So this is website defacement monitor. And we also have something called real-time block list, which helps you to check and confirm if the host name or IP address are blocklisted against the popular DNS-based block list in real time. So let me show you. So this is the edit page. So here you can see you give the display name and resolve host name on every port. Basically, no means host name is resolved only once and IP address are cached. And you give the host name and IP addresses here, and from which block list you need to check this. So you select them and save it. So we check against this and trigger an alert if that is present. And this is the status. So this is how it will look for each eyepiece. That is a real-time block list. So we also have SSL or TLS certificate monitor. So this is something which is really important, right? When I try to access a website and I see a warning sign there, tells me it is not secure to access that site, it doesn't look good. So you have to make sure that you are aware of the expiry date, and you renew the certificate as soon as possible. So this SSL certificate helps you with that. We check the certificate validity do OCSP checks, look for any revoked certificates, and we also check the certificate chains and do any blacklisted checks. So you go to the ad page and you see this page, you configure the host port and the details, and then you give the certificate expiry threshold, which is like 30 days, or if you want to receive an alert 10 days before the expiry, you can configure that here, so that before 30 days we send you an alert. We send you an alert stating that there are 30 more days for the SSL certificate to get expired. So similarly, you can do it for 5 days, 2 days, anything according to your requirement. And if you want to skip the hostname verification in this, or ignore the trust certification part, the chain, then you can configure that accordingly, select the locations, and configure the threshold profiles if required. And by default, in the summary, we provide the server certificate details and also the server chain details as well. And we also check for vulnerabilities here and give the details and what are the protocols and ciphers. And in the outages tab, you get to see if there are any outages. Moving on to domain expiry monitor. So domain name, you can monitor your domain name's expiry and receive alerts very similar to SSL certificate. So just go to the ad page, you give the registered domain name, the host server details, and the domain name expiry threshold, like how much days before you need to receive the alert. So you configure that and save it. You get to receive alerts based on that. So this is domain expiry. So we saw all the website security related monitor, website defacement, real-time block list monitor. We saw about uh, SSL certificate monitor, domain expiry monitor. So the last one would be the brand reputation monitor. Brand reputation monitor checks your website against regularly updated Google Safe browsing list. That is, it is called a web risk list, which is a repository maintained by Google, which has list of URLs to contain malicious code. So this monitor, it helps you to check your URL against a regularly updated list and notify if it is affected. And this is how you configure the web page and everything. So moving on to Digital Risk Analyzer. Digital Risk Analyzer is a subproduct of Site 24/7, which was recently introduced. It is the all-in-one risk assessment tool that helps organizations check your cybersecurity posture and assess the cyber risk posted by third-party vendors. It will be helpful to assess and validate email, domains, network, and application, and then deliver a report and rating score that can help you validate the security of your platform. So how do you assess that? So we have this icon here, right? Click on it and go to Digital Risk Analyzer. So this is how it will look. If you want to add a new domain, click on it, give the display name, give the domain name, and how frequently you want a scan to be run. So you can select it from the drop down. Either it can be 1 day to 2 weeks. So select it. Once you save it, the domain will get added. So we will run a scan and provide the results, and the results will look like this. So let me show you already added one. So this is the score, and we show the domain security, email security, network security, and application security. What are the top assertions? So the benefits you get here, you receive rating scores for your domains. You can even do on demand scan. So we do the scan every 1 day, right? That is a minimum. If you want to do an on demand, just go here and click on scan now, and you can share the reports to your individuals in the PDF format. You get to download the reports. So here is the download. You get to download the report, and you can see the domain rating score after every scan. After every each scan, you get to see the score here. And what are the assertion level score? We give the representation and the security details, and you can customize the logo and even the descriptions here. So this is the DRA, and for DRA, there are like certain user roles as well. If you want only certain users to have access to this, you can do it in the settings page. And I earlier mentioned about customizing the logo and descriptions, right? So you can do it here. And this is the reports for each domains here. So you can select the domains and see what was the last scan time and what is the grade for it. And in the domain page, you get to see each domain's assertions. And if you want to have the threat indicators, if you want to get more details on it, you can just click on them and get more details. So this is our new sub product, which we highly recommend you all to try. So we have come to the end of the session, moving on to the best practices. So we saw about creating a monitor. While creating the monitor, I showed you how you add a monitor, how you can add a notification profile, a threshold profile, create a alert group associated. It will be much easier. You pre-configure them, and so that you can quickly monitor the configurations. Let me show you how you do that. So let's go to site 24/7 again. So go to admin, and we have the configuration profiles. So we have location profile, threshold and availability profile, notification profile. Click on the plus icon. You get to add a new location profile. All the location profiles that are created in your account will be listed here. So similarly, threshold and availability, notification profile. And if you want particular business hours which you wanted to select when you want to configure a notification profile, or when you are creating a report, or email templates. Even in email templates, when I was using the dollar sign, I mentioned you earlier, if you want to use any customized parameters instead of just group name or down reason or something or down URL, you can just create a global parameter, so that you can do it here. If you want to configure any web tokens or auth providers, so those kind of settings or fields, you can pre-configure it here, so that when you create a monitor, you can just select it from the drop down, which makes your work much easier. And you can group the monitor to have a consolidated view of monitors, and you can use the business view to your maximum requirement, so that you can see where it is, where the down is, where it is failing. So you can even use that business view in dashboards, right? So you can customize dashboards accordingly, which we will be seeing it in the last training day. This is a fifth day training. We will see how you can create reports and dashboards. So this business view kind of helps you in that. And you can perform string checks for almost all the internet services monitors, so that you don't just rely on the status code, but also the content of your website. And make sure that you're setting the right threshold value, so that you avoid receiving false alerts. So these are the 2023 Q3 updates. So you can drill deep into the performance of your resources with RCA for web transaction browser monitors, the screenshots and the console errors and the sources. That is what I showed during the explanation of web transaction browser monitor. And we now support AWS signature authentication method in REST API, which you can use it. So which helps in authenticating the endpoints hosted in AWS API gateway. And we also now support prop-fine HTTP method, so which helps you to monitor the web distributed or authoring or versioning APIs like calendar and contacts. And you can drill deep into the performance of your CDNs, which is now available for your web page speed browser, where you get to have the insights. And you can view traces information of your website, REST API transaction, and synthetic traces is like it helps you know how the request is traveling through each transactions. So it helps you to understand if there is any slow method calls, if there is any failures or latency. So coming to end of the session, so in this today's session we learned about different types of internet services monitor and security related monitors, and also about digital risk analyzer, which is DRA. And then we saw the high level configuration of the same. I also recommended some best practices which you can use in your environment. I know it was a lot to take in, but I hope this was helpful. and makes you use a product more and understand a product more. Thank you so much for sitting through this session. And in tomorrow's session, we will see about infrastructure monitoring and custom plugins, which will cover the server monitoring, the server applications monitoring, basically your Docker, your Kubernetes, so those monitors, and also about how you can add plugins for monitoring. Once again, thank you so much. You guys have a very nice day.